humans must come to a collective understanding about how potentially harmful this technology can be, similar to how we should have handled social media. When MySpace was created, we didn't understand the long-term ramifications. Maybe there were psychologists who had an understanding into the effects that information overload would have on humans. But as a collective, we didn't know that. We didn't know that there was going to be people that were going to bully people online, harassment online. We didn't anticipate all these things when we initially bought into the idea of this new technology being social media. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about full self-driving. What is full self-driving? For those of you who don't know, it's exactly that. The vehicle can fully drive itself with no human input. This is achieved by computer vision in Tesla's case, which simply takes in the information from the environment around it using the cameras on the vehicle, processes all that information within the computer in real time, and then allows the car to make decisions for itself based on, again, the environment around it. So I think the thing that a lot of people get hung up on with full self-driving is, okay, a car can drive itself. Whoop-de-doo. Well, for one, it's not whoop-de-doo. It's actually groundbreaking. I don't know of any cars in the world today that can drive themselves, or at any point in the past that have been able to drive themselves with no human input to get a passenger safely from point A to point B uninterrupted, completely uninterrupted. That doesn't exist today. There are, different renditions of it. You got, obviously Tesla's FSD, you have Waymo, you have Cruise, you have all these different companies trying to come up with lidar-based full self-driving solutions. I'm not going to go too deep into lidar, but what it essentially is it's radar with lasers, essentially. They use these lasers to tell the vehicle how far away an object is from it. Now, the reason why LiDAR is not going to be something that is widely adopted is for a few reasons. One of them, cost. While costs haven't been coming down, still pretty expensive. Also, it doesn't really do anything for the computer, for the vehicle, because it can tell it how far an object is away from it, but it can't tell it what that object is, right? So, for an example, bats, right? Bats, they fly around at night. They're blind. You heard the expression blind as a bat. Bats can't see, right? What do they use? They use sonic waves, right? Essentially a form of radar. They use these sonic waves to bounce off. They use those. They bounce off whatever their prey is. It comes back to them based on how far away that thing is, tells it, or how long it takes for the sound to come back, tells it how far away it is, right? Doesn't tell it what it is. It can get a pretty good sense of it based on, the size, right? But it doesn't know exactly what it is. Now you look at us, humans, we have vision, we have two eyeballs, and we can see. So we use these to navigate our world, right? I see an obstruction in front of me. I know where it is, how far away from me it is, what it is, and I can avoid that obstruction, right? Whether that be a car, a person, a cat, a fire hydrant, whatever. LiDAR can't see that. Computer vision can. Cameras can, right? Very important. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, for one, Tesla's not just trying to solve full self-driving for, their vehicles. They're trying to solve artificial intelligence, and more specifically, artificial general intelligence. Now, I know some people probably don't know too much about artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence for that matter. So I pulled up the definitions here. First, let's look at artificial intelligence. The theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. So we have been accustomed to artificial intelligence for a long time now, right? If you have an iPhone and you have Siri, when you say, hey, and that virtual assistant pops up and says, where would you like to go? That is a form of artificial intelligence, right? It's gonna use the computer system to perform the task of navigating you from point A to point B, and it's using your speech recognition to make that distinction of where you would like to go. So that's artificial intelligence just in its barest form. And, at this point in time, it's not something to gaze over, even though it is a fascinating, phenomena. It's not something that we're not accustomed to already. However, artificial general intelligence is something truly groundbreaking, something that we've never before experienced, and something that I think Tesla is currently in the lead for, right? And so let's take a look at the definition of artificial general intelligence. We get this from Wikipedia. AGI is the hypothetical ability of an intelligent agent to understand or learn any intellectual task that a human being can. It is a primary goal of artificial intelligence research and a common topic in science fiction, future studies. Sorry, I'm in a little trouble here. Topic in science fiction and future studies. Now, some of the major goals of AGI, as we can see here: planning, computer vision, general game playing, knowledge reasoning, machine learning, natural language processing, and robotics. So of these major goals here, robotics exist, natural language processing exists, machine learning exists, knowledge reasoning, to an extent. General game playing, right? You've heard of the computers that play the game Go, ancient Chinese game, and it now is beating the best Go players with ease. It's not even, doesn't break a sweat. Same thing with chess. Planning and computer vision are two aspects of artificial general intelligence that have yet to be solved. And again, every Tesla that's produced today has 8 cameras surrounding the vehicle, constantly taking in information about the environment around it all over the globe, right? Teslas are everywhere. Every Tesla that drives around, whatever amount of time it drives around, is constantly gathering information. Just like every time that you use your iPhone and you ask, the virtual assistant a question and looking for an answer, you're helping to train the neural net, is what they call it. So why is this important, right? Well, from my perspective, this will create an unprecedented value in our economy. It actually has the possibility of breaking it altogether. Things that were previously too expensive or too dangerous now become achievable, right? Some examples of that: digging tunnels endlessly to alleviate traffic, right? Because now you can take this computer chip, put it into a tunnel digging machine, i.e. the Boring Company, which, for those of you who don't know, is another Elon Musk founded, owned, and run company. So you dig these tunnels everywhere, and you can dig them 1,000 tunnels deep. You can dig them 1,000 tunnels wide, and any variation between the two. There's no longer traffic. Traffic is gone. This is enabled by having these machines that are digging nonstop, that while they're digging can also make the distinction between, should we, stop for a minute? When a boring tunnel machine digs, what it does is it digs, and then behind it, where there's the hole, it puts a reinforcing structure so that the hole doesn't collapse on itself, right? So as it's digging, it's also putting that reinforcement. So rather than ever having to stop after a few feet or whatever to put the reinforcement, it can do it at the same time. Mix that with, we talked about robotics, right? Another major goal was robotics. So take a humanoid robot, right? Again, Tesla's Optimus bot, a humanoid robot. You put this artificial general intelligence computer chip into it and allow it to do everything that a human could do. Very, very important when considering, something I talked about in a prior video. We have a battery shortage. Why is the battery shortage starting to arise? Well, because people are getting off of coal, they're getting off of gas, they're transitioning over to electric vehicles. What does that mean for the price of minerals such as nickel and cobalt that are required to create these batteries, right? Obviously they have the LFP, which is the lithium iron phosphate. Again, I'm getting very technical here, but the point is that these minerals have to be, you have to gather these minerals. And how do you do that, right? You have to mine for them. And when you mine for them, you put human beings potentially in dangerous situations, right? Exposing them to toxic environments, right? Well, that's alleviated if you now have a humanoid robot that can go out and perform that same task that the human was capable of performing, right? This breaks our economy, if you think about it, because now the economy is based on supply and demand. Well, what happens when you have endless supply? Are you going to continue to have endless demand? Maybe, but it now just simply says there's no longer a labor shortage. So now things that were once considered valuable because they were, almost impossible to obtain or very difficult to obtain, or dangerous to obtain, now lose a lot of that value because you can just send a robot to go and accomplish that thing, right? Very, very important stuff. Another aspect that AGI can, another problem that it can solve is forest maintenance, right? For those of you living in California, you're no strangers to forest fires. And what are forest fires even, why are they started? Because we don't maintain the forests, right? There's a lot of dead debris on the ground. It gets really hot. That the heat mixes with the dry, dry debris, starts a fire. Someone throws a cigarette butt out, starts a fire, whatever the case may be. The forests are not being maintained properly, and this is also leading to so many forest fires. Well, now if you can just send robots out there to go and manage the forests, you no longer have to have humans go out and do it, right? Maybe that's a job that humans are capable of doing, and it's not necessarily the most dangerous job, but maybe people just don't want to do it. So now you have a robot that doesn't have a I don't want to say necessarily a choice. It doesn't have a choice, but it also doesn't care, right? It's just accomplishing tasks, just going out and doing what's asked of it. So that's another aspect. Firefighting in general, right? Now you don't have to put human lives at stake to go into fires. You can just send a robot in there. The robot doesn't come out. Oh, well, it costs you a few $1,000s. You go buy another one, right? Maybe your insurance picks up the tab on that. Lastly, going to Mars. It's just another, goal of Elon's is to get human beings on Mars, but you can't send humans out to, a planet that doesn't have any infrastructure, that doesn't have anything for them to be able to survive. So instead, you send up all these robots. You just send robots for, let's say, 2 years. All you're doing is sending robots. You send robots and materials, and then you say, go out there and accomplish the task, right? This is why I get so excited about Tesla, get so excited about SpaceX, get so excited about Elon Musk, Boring Company. All this stuff is because these are problems that at one point or another seemed like science fiction fantasies that would never come to fruition. And now we're at a point in time of our existence where these things might actually come about in our lifetimes. And this, to me, is super exciting. So that's a good segue to what are, some of the best case scenarios when full self-driving is achieved. Artificial general intelligence has been achieved. What are the best case scenarios? Well, perhaps wars and financial-based conflict are eradicated entirely due to the inherent ability for humans to live free of an economic input, right? Robots will do all the unwanted or the unsafe work, which increases economic output, right? Now, humans can be free to experience the world without having to tend to the minute tasks like folding laundry or cooking or driving to their destination, walking the dog, etc. If you want to do those things, by all means, you have the freedom to do them. Now you don't have to sit in traffic for 2 hours to get to work, spend 8.5 hours at work, and then, spend another 2 hours. That's 12 hours. By the time you get home, you want to sit back, relax, have a beer, watch some TV. The last thing you want to do is fold laundry, cook dinner, walk the dog, right? Now, if you have a robot that can accomplish those tasks for you, laundry is there's no more laundry. There's no more having to cook. The stuff is done for you before you even get home, right? When you get home, you sit down at the table. To that point, you don't even drive, right? Now you sit in the car and you get creative. Now, for someone like me who I make YouTube content, I can edit videos for 2 hours in the car. And even further, if what my job is something that can be accomplished by a robot, I don't go to work anymore, right? So I think from this perspective, now I can just wake up in the morning. I can go out and enjoy the world. I can, spend time with my family. I can travel around. I can do anything that my heart desires because I have that freedom. I don't have to contribute to the economy anymore with my labor. That can all be accomplished through the use of robots, right? Similar to the Industrial Revolution when, it went from humans having to do everything by hand to now having machines being able to do, these things. Same thing here. This is going to be the artificial general intelligence revolution, right? Now, with all good things also come bad things, right? And while I've laid out the best case scenario and how, we can live in a euphoric, oasis, there's also the worst case scenario, right? There's also the doomsday aspect to this. And this is something that I think as much as I get excited about, as much as I get excited about full self-driving, as much as I get excited about, humanoid robots that are capable of accomplishing the tasks that I don't want to do, I'm also a bit nervous, right? I'm nervous for a few reasons. One of the first is, well, in the worst case scenario, again, in my opinion, I think humans begin humanizing these robots, which I know on the surface isn't necessarily a bad thing, but just like with anything else that we humanize, this will lead to rights, right? We humanize animals, so we give animals animal rights, right? And with those rights comes independence, right? So now you say the robots have rights. Now we give them independence. So robot rights, robot independence, perhaps just like with all things that have been given rights, they've been given independence, leads to revolution, right? This is where things get, for lack of a better term, scary. Because when a robot revolution occurs, they have immediate access and communication with each other, right? We have phones. I can get on the phone, I can call somebody, right? But I can call one person at a time. Or I can maybe send a group text to people. But then each of those people has to stop what they're doing to read that text, right? When robots decide, we ain't putting up with this shit no more, they speak telepathically. They're all on the same wavelength, right? So alternatively, prior to any of this taking place, prior to, AGI being solved, or maybe it's post AGI being solved, but prior to, any of the best case scenario or the worst case scenario starting to play out, prior to this taking place, perhaps there's a situation where, or scenario where the robots play out that same scenario and they realize it before humans have even had a chance to consider it, considering the fact that robots will be able, again, to telepathically communicate instantaneously because they are computers after all. So in an alternate situation from either of those two, this has already taken place and we have simply yet to consider it, right? Something to think about, because I think when we look at, get back here. When we look at, how much a robot would be able to help us, yes, let's do it. Let's run there. Let's sprint there. Let's get there as fast as possible. We don't often consider the consequences or ramifications of those actions until it's too late, right? So is this good or bad? My opinion, neither. It is what it is. I think our responsibility is to understand which direction we're headed in as a civilization and come to a reasonable understanding of this, which I believe will happen as future generations begin to make decisions, right? You got people that are 80 years old, 90 years old, that aren't up to date with the times. Shit, 30 years old, there are things that are happening with the next generation, people that are 14, 15, 16 years old today that, they're doing things that I'm out of touch with, and I'm 30 years old. I'm still young. I'm out of touch. So what does that speak to the people that are twice, 3 times my age, right? They're not able to keep up with what's going on. So if you ask them, hey, what do you think about robots? I asked, I was visiting my grandma recently and I asked her, she's almost 80 years old. I asked her, I said, Grandma, what do you think about, these types of things? And I don't want any of that. I don't want anything to do with any of that. And that's a common reaction with people from that generation, right? So it's my generation's responsibility. The people that are sort of spearheading this, they're spearheading this goal or whatever, and they're saying, hey, we need to solve AGI. They're not looking at the long term, or maybe they are, but it's not being discussed publicly. No one's kind of coming to a forum and saying, hey, how do we do this? Now, again, is it good or bad? I don't know. It's neither to me. It's just, it is what it is. But our ability to adapt will be directly correlated with our ability to cooperate as a species, right? It's already hard enough to get humans to agree. There's nothing in the world that humans agree upon. All humans, I should say. There's nothing in the world that every single human agrees upon. Perhaps this is one of those things. Perhaps this is one of those things where we can try to come to an agreement. And I know it's impossible, but maybe we can make some headway there. And I think that headway starts by having these types of conversations to, yes, be excited about what it can offer, but also be fearful that if it goes in, is put into the wrong hands or developed even in the wrong hands, it could be detrimental to not just any one human, but our entire civilization, right? So humans to AGI can be, roughly looked at as humans to dogs, right? When humans began domesticating dogs, there was a relationship, a bond that was formed between the two, and a pact was made that we would provide the dog with food, and the dog would provide the humans with security, right? This is agreed upon. Even though we can't communicate with one another directly, we've come to this agreement. Now, when it comes to humans and AGI, we're not the humans, right? From human to dog, right? And we are kind of like the overseer of the dog in a way. The AGI, is the overseer of the humans in this situation. And this is only a natural evolution of intelligence, and one that's likely necessary for the continued existence of our species. Because if you consider what we've done for dogs, right? Dogs were wild animals at a point. And when we start to provide them with food and shelter or whatever, that's when they begin to show us, I'll do something for you as well. But we are more intelligent than a dog. So we were able to domesticate dogs. Dogs didn't necessarily domesticate humans. Some would argue to an extent they did, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. Let's just stay here and say, well, AGI is more intelligent than any one human. So if AGI decides, hypothetically, that it wants to move in a different direction, humans are going to have to learn to adapt to that, right? Because if not, and AGI is in control and is pulling the strings, where does that leave humans, right? This should not be feared, but rather we should be proud of this, right? We should be proud of the fact that there is, I don't want to necessarily call robots a species yet, even though that might be that might be appropriate. I don't want to label robots as a species, but we created robots and we created AGI or artificial intelligence, and on the verge of general intelligence. We created that. This is something that as a human species we should be proud of, right? This is, like I said, natural evolution. You had the cavemen, and that led to the modern day human. I'm sure the cavemen or our ancestors to an extent would be proud of some of the accomplishments that we've had over the millennia. But to kind of wrap this up, how do we avoid a doomsday scenario where robots kill off all the humans and that's it? How do we avoid that doomsday? And I think this is an important question. The answer, in my view, is not one-sided, but instead multifaceted. So the most advanced versions must be created and developed in the right hands and for the right reasons. This is subjective. Now, the technology must be developed in a way that can direct no harm to a human. This is objective. See the difference there? When I say that the most advanced versions must be created and developed in the right hands and for the right reasons, that's just me subjectively saying, we can't be doing things that are going to harm humans, but not every human might look at it that way, right? What is right and wrong to me might not be right and wrong to somebody else. Therefore, it's subjective, right? However, if we're developing the technology in a way that it can direct no harm to a human at all in any situation or scenario, this must be objective. There should be no compromise here. If we come to this understanding, right, then despite who develops it, the robot will be unable to wipe humans out, right? If it's a car, it will not be able to harm the occupants or any pedestrians or any other drivers of other vehicles, right? You're creating the product or the software to not be able to hurt humans. Again, this is, in my view, this is objective. Now, if that's accomplished, the technology is unable to be used as a means to directly harm humans, but would still be at risk of indirectly harming humans. This, folks, is inevitable, right? As I just mentioned with the car scenario, car accidents will happen. A child will run out into the middle of the road prior to the car being able to react. It'll happen so quick that the car won't be able to anticipate it, right? These types of situations are inevitable, right? There may be an instance where, somebody, I don't know. Yeah, I guess the car example was my lone example, but it's just to say that indirectly robots will harm humans. That's inevitable. But to what degree, I think, is what we need to kind of come to the understanding of. And I think that similarly to how we handle nuclear weapons, for instance, humans must come to a collective understanding about how potentially harmful this technology can be and do our best to prevent any negative outcomes detrimental to our overall civilization. Similar to how we should have handled social media, right? We didn't understand the long-term ramifications of social media when MySpace was created, when Facebook was first created, Twitter, all these other social media apps. We didn't understand the long-term ramifications. Maybe there were some people who did. Maybe there were psychologists. Maybe there were people who had, an understanding into the effects that information overload would have on humans. Maybe they're those people, but as a collective, we didn't know that. We just saw it as a way to connect with our friends. And, the fact that I'm moving across the country or even across the world and can still, get on my phone and talk to my friends as though they're in the room with me. That's what we were doing it for. We didn't know that there was going to be, people that were going to bully people online. We didn't know that there was going to be, harassment online. We didn't anticipate all these things when we initially bought into the idea of this new technology being social media, right? This is how we should have handled it. We should have come to a collective agreement about how potentially harmful it is, put in warnings and interstitials and restrictions and all these different types of things to protect human beings, protect the how valuable or how fragile our society, our civilization is, right? So lives will be lost. This much we can all be sure. But again, to what degree is what is yet to be determined. So I know that got a little deep. It got a little grim, dark, as it's supposed to, because I don't think anything is all rose petals. I don't think anything is all sweet. I think there has to be a dose of reality mixed in there. And we have to consider these things, because if we don't, and we allow the blind to lead the blind, we might fuck up. We might do something that is, irreversibly detrimental to our civilization. So that's all I got for this one. I just wanted to get some thoughts off about, artificial intelligence, AGI. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of Tesla and their mission. I think if anyone's going to develop this technology, that's one of the companies that I would trust most to do it. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you think that the scenario I laid out is likely? Do you think it could happen at all? Do you agree that AGI can be detrimental to our civilization just as it is as likely to be beneficial to our society? What are your guys' thoughts? Let me know. That does it for this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, share this, send it off to friends and family. Let them know when it comes to that Tesla talk. Your boy Willie got it. All right, everybody. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.